So you guys know that I am a sucker for a comic book related mystery. With the help of a few friends, I've identified a mystery and possibly even come up with a solution to it. Now here's the interesting thing. The artist is a popular, well-known cover artist, and you may have his first published comic book work in your collection right now. If you want to know the details, stay tuned to this video. Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to solve the mystery of J. Scott Campbell, or Jeffrey Scott, as he is also known, or at least was in the early days. So Jeffrey Scott is an amazing cover artist. If you just Google Jeffrey Scott or J. Scott Campbell covers, you get a long list of some amazing artwork. I checked my own collection, and unfortunately I don't have many of J. Scott Campbell's covers. I'm going to show you a few, but I don't have many. But what I do have is possibly his earliest, if not his first published comic book artwork. And the question is, do you have it in your collection? So stay tuned as I walk through this video. So I went through, a friend reached out to me and said, hey, I am a fan of the channel. I may have a mystery for you. And they know that everybody knows that I love mysteries. So it was a mystery that I welcomed. And I did a little bit of research. I checked with a few people that are super knowledgeable. And I think we do indeed have a mystery on our hands, but we also have a solution. So stay tuned. So Jeffrey Scott is known for his cover art, and so I wanted to go into my own collection to see what J. Scott Campbell artwork I had. Now, as I mentioned, I don't have very much, but I do want to show you a couple of things. This is one that I picked up. It is X-Men #1. It is a wonderful cover. The wedding, I think it's a wedding special featuring Kitty Pryde and Colossus. I think this is when they clearly go on to get married, but this is a cover that is reminiscent of Astonishing X-Men #6, where they were in a similar pose on a cover. So I think this one's really cool. Again, gorgeous work done by J. Scott Campbell. I tend to like his artwork where he does women more so than men, but I think Colossus looks pretty cool there. And another book that I picked up from him was three books that I picked up directly from him and his website. They're all domino covers. So this is a really cool one. I believe that this is a homage cover to another book. I want to say I saw Nick Fury maybe on a similar cover back in maybe the 60s. I'd have to go back and check that. But this, I believe, is a homage to that. This is one of my favorite covers for Domino. This is cover D, just a gorgeous piece of artwork done by J. Scott. I mean, this thing is just really, really well done. Another that I think is really cool, I think he did an amazing job on Domino and a pretty good job on Deadpool. This is cover B. And all of these have been signed at the bottom, and they all come with a certificate of authenticity directly from J. Scott. So those are essentially the 4 books that I have from J. Scott Campbell. I actually jumped on Google and went through the list, and yeah, I don't have many of his books, unfortunately. I think I took a massive break during the time when he was kind of raising in popularity, and I don't have many of his books at all. So that is very unfortunate. But I do have his first book. So J. Scott Campbell was first published, I do believe, in Nintendo Power in 1989. He entered a contest where he submitted an idea for a video game. I don't know if the video game was ever made, but he submitted an idea, I think along with some artwork. Nintendo liked it. I think he got first place, and I think they published him in 1989 as the winner of this contest. But when he graduated, I think he was around 17. He was looking to break into the comic book industry after a friend exposed him to X-Men a few years prior to that. And I should say that his first published work for Nintendo was when he was 15. So a few short years later, he has graduated. He wants to break into comic books, and he's putting together his portfolio to go out and I think meet Jim Lee and some of the Image guys at a con. And so he's preparing his paperwork and his artwork to be able to show why he should be brought into the industry. And around this time, my guess is that he was reading comic books, because in, I believe, Wildcats #2, which is Jim Lee's brainchild, he saw an ad for Homage Studios, possibly this ad right here, which is a talent search that the guys over at Homage/Image were sponsoring at the time, where they are actually looking for pencilers, inkers, colorists, writers, letterers that can actually be the next generation of talent. And it basically says, if you're 17 years or older and willing to relocate to work in San Diego, California, send samples of your work. Jeffrey Scott saw this ad, responded, and sent over to Jim Lee a 4-page story arc featuring the Wildcats. A week later, Jim Lee called him and offered him a job. And it took off from there. So Jay Scott moved to San Diego. He dropped his stuff off, I guess, at some temporary housing. He ends up starting to work for Homage Studios. He does some work, I think, on Wildcats. He then comes up with the idea for Gen 13, and you know, he ends up co-writing, I think, around issue #3 or something like that. But he goes on, as you guys know, to have a very wonderful career that continues to this day. But somewhere around the time of 92, 93, he actually had a piece of artwork published in another Image book, specifically the 3rd rocking issue of Savage Dragon. Somebody, as I mentioned, reached out to me and said, hey, I think I found his first published work. Do you have this book? Lo and behold, I not only have 1 copy, I actually have 2 copies. I have not opened this book since I read it back in the 90s. And so I cracked this open, looked at the very last page, and sure enough, there was a piece of artwork from Jeffrey Scott, I apologize, dated 10/12/92. And this book was actually released in December 92, first printing. So to my knowledge, this is his earliest, if not first, published comic book related artwork. Because his other more documented work were a few pinups that he did, and then some work that he did on Wildcats, and none of that, I don't believe, saw the light of day until 93. This was released in December of 92. So the question is, do you have this book in your collection? As always, I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I also want to thank you in advance for any comments that you may leave for me. And yes, this was a non-Marvel related video that I've done. Take care.